Coffee is a fruit, it's not a bean. And people are willing to overlook that because when you roast it, you're covering that up and you're making it more, you're taming it quite a bit. When you're talking about espresso, you have 100 different variables and you're trying to eliminate all of those variables, especially espresso. Milk is, most people can learn milk in a week or two. It shouldn't take that long to pour Rosetta. But really trying to have this sort of controlled chaos, if you will, trying to repeat something that just in its nature doesn't want to be repeated over and over.
So when I'm pulling a shot, I'm looking for a dry portafilter, and I'm trying to get a consistent dose. So if there's any grounds left in the hopper, I'm going to throw it out. Drawing just as much as I need. I like to do sort of a modified stock flip, which is the redistribution leveling technique. If you don't see a barista do that and they're just doing the 2 clicks, it doesn't mean that they're doing it wrong. It's just a different level. I think the best baristas I've ever seen get hands-on and they get into the coffee because you get a real feel for it. So what I like is an even tamp, sort of a perpendicular. If you don't see them doing a tamp and they're using a little plastic tamper, it's not a good sign. Something nice and heavy, a real good quality metal, a stainless steel. Good firm tamp and polish. Those are what I like to see. When steaming the milk, I think it's important to always use fresh milk. Don't re-steam milk. If you catch a barista re-steaming milk, you probably want to say something because it doesn't taste good. Likewise, when you see them spooning off from one giant pitcher, that doesn't taste good either. It's always good to make one drink at a time and really focus on it. There's only 2 phases, and it's really simple. There's a stretching phase where you're adding air, and there's a texturing phase where you're trying to break down the bubbles into microfoam. And then that last part is just getting it hot enough that it's hot enough to drink. You want it. I like 145 to 150, and I think that's you get the most sweetness out of the milk that way. When you're pouring latte art, it's kind of just a matter of making sure that your milk has a consistency. It kind of looks like yogurt from the surface a little bit. Making sure it's nice and shiny and polished, and then finding that angle, if I can find it, where it comes out onto the surface and you get a nice pour.
There's passion, especially in this area. If you were in Seattle, you don't have to worry about that because every shop is competitive. So if you don't do a good job, your neighbors do a good job, so it's just about training and putting the time in. And here it's finding people who even care to take the time to listen to what you have to say. Because there are no good shops. The 3 best shops in town are mostly sandwich shops. And I'm not disrespecting them, they're very good coffee places for drip coffee, but I feel like there aren't espresso places that you can go hang out with yet, where you can, a barista from another shop can go and have a shot and talk about it. It doesn't really exist yet. It gets down to philosophies. There are people who like to sit and drink a drip cup of coffee and as it cools just sort of ponder it and sip it. But an espresso is something that all the faults of the coffee, all of the good things in the coffee, everything that's in the coffee is amplified times 10. And the flavors that you can get out of it can be a great experience, but there's very rarely do you get that experience in the cafe. I mean, if you can have a Brazil that tastes like roasted pecans or something like very nutty and very defined, or you can have very unique experiences, you can have that in espresso. In a drip coffee, that's very, very subtle, and it's kind of like you have 12 ounces to ponder over. But espresso, it's not quite like a shot of whiskey, but it's something very intense, and immediate, and even the average person can sit and tell the difference between side by side two different distinct varietals pulled as a shot.